All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. It is 2:30, so we're going to get started. First, I would like to let you know I am recording this session. Second, if you would like a copy of Dr. Maclin's resource, her PowerPoint presentation, you can find it in the resources. So again, hello and welcome to the session More Than Numbers, Embracing the Whole Student. Let me close my screen so I can see. There we go. As a reminder, this session is scheduled to end at 2:50 Eastern Time. The presenter will speak for the first 15 minutes, and we will follow with a 5-minute question and answer. A quick reminder, this app will close at the end of our session, so you'll have to go back to the web browser and then pick your next section. And I think the next session start at 3:15, if I recall. So I'm thrilled to introduce your presenter, Dr. Michelle Maclin. She's an instructional consultant to an RCTLE College of Business. Dr. Maclin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Marquita. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I don't know what just happened.
I don't
Um,
know either. It was
did
perfect
it?
at first.
All right, let me close out of that. I'm not sure what happened. Always, oh, you gotta love technology. So, anyway, I am Dr. Michelle Maclin, and I am your presenter for this session. My topic is more than numbers. So, at the conclusion of this event, the goal is really for you to be able um, to analyze not just student data, but also look at the whole student, building relationships, data, and creating a culture and an environment where students are able to thrive and learn. Marquita, it's not come opening back up for me. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm going to open it and share my screen and see if that'll
Okay.
help you, okay?
Thank you. So, as Marquita assists with whatever is happening with the technology right now, I'm just going to continue going with the presentation. So when we think about interacting with students, we have to look at every component of a student's growth and development. We have to look at the data, we have to build relationships, and we also have to create an environment and a culture at the university level that is conducive to students' growth and development. So, first, we're going to talk about data. So, when we think about data, thank you, Marquita, we have to look at two items in particular. One is retention, and the other is persistence. So, when we look at retention, retention is a university's ability to really make sure that students are able to complete their degree without quitting in between. We want to make sure that we are maintaining our students and not allowing them to be transitioned or go into other universities or industries. So, that in and of itself is a very important element of embracing the whole student. Also, persistence is the ability for a student to continue in their academic aspirations without giving up when things get difficult or hard. So we want to make sure that we are providing environments for students to be able to do that, because students learn and succeed when their whole being is addressed and supported. And so, again, looking at the data and analyzing that data, building those relationships, and establishing a safe culture allows them to succeed in environments. It allows us to retain them and for them to be persistent as they matriculate through their academic journey. So, next, we're going to look at some data. As you can see, Daytona Beach in the fall of 23 had a retention rate of 88.1%. The retention rate is at the top 35%, according to statistics. The Prescott campus has a retention rate of 78%. Our full-time undergraduates at Worldwide have a retention rate of 59%. If you were in the previous session today, the opening session with Dr. Witcher, Miller, and Vasquez, you heard them talk a lot about retention. Retention is important because it is how we get our funding. It is how we are able to continue to support students and faculty. So knowing our numbers, knowing where we are is an important element for what we are doing here. And it is important to note that on average, according to the clearinghouse, that 4-year private institutions, public private institutions, um, we tend to have a lower rate of retention and persistence for our students. And so then the question is, how do we transition beyond that? And we transition beyond that by really focusing on the whole student. So the first thing we're going to talk about is data. So data, as I said, is an important contributor to student success, but it is not the only factor. It does give us a snapshot of institutional performance, but it often fails to capture the nuances and complexities of the student experience. And so when we look at retention rates, we can't determine a student's success or failure for a program or intervention without looking at that whole student and the qualitative insights that help us gauge what is happening. So here at ERAU, we have 3 levels of data collection, which you see on the screen. The first is individual. It provides that specific, actionable, quality feedback that is a part of a student's individual data set, and it can be the initial indicator that a student may be struggling. Then we have the course data. This data is used to inform course redesigns and changes. It can identify opportunities for faculty development, and it's important to remember that everyone can benefit from professional development. And that is what we get. That is the type of data that we receive from course information. So, and then we have finally institutional data. Institutional data just basically helps determine the overall direction of the university and the initiatives that we will be undertaking. So as educators, we must ask ourselves multiple questions when we're evaluating each of these different types of data, specifically with regards to individual student data that informs course and institutional data. What's happening with this student? Why are they missing assignment deadlines? Could they be experiencing personal struggles or isolation? So this is what we need to look at, because when we look at the student themselves, we can help to change the course of the data that we are able to collect. But data, as I said, is not the only element or aspect of working with the whole student. Next, we're going to talk about relationship. So when we look at relationship, we have to look at what is happening with the student. And research shows that data alone will not provide the full picture of student success. While it can help track progress and identify trends, the key to improving retention rates and fostering student success lies in those relationships that we cultivate between our students, faculty, and staff. By building a supportive, inclusive environment that prioritizes human connection, community, we can improve retention rates and ensure that our students are set up for long-term academic and personal success. Each student has an individual journey, and relationships that we forge day to day, our interactions, our conversations, our connections, they are how we help students and one another assimilate into the environment and become seen, valued, and heard. Again, research also suggests that classes, whether they are online or in person, allow students to develop those relationships. When we are online in virtual environments, it can be very difficult to build those relationships. So we have to be more engaged. We have to be more intentional. We have to be more forthcoming with what we need to do in order to assist students. Next, we will talk about culture. Culture affects all aspects of school. It influences informal communications. It's a type of instruction that is valued, how professional development is viewed, and how shared commitment is developed in ensuring what we have going on our campus. So, creating a culture where people feel valued, seen, and a part of is vitally important. A positive culture is one of the most important facets of a successful environment. And as educators, we should actively work towards creating a culture that encourages participation and success for students and staff alike. Providing a positive culture requires an institutional commitment. It requires developing and prioritizing a culture of belonging that surpasses academic achievement. It requires providing professional learning opportunities that don't just focus on academia and pedagogy, but also relational skills. The ability, providing opportunities for instructors to build rapport and understanding the diverse needs of participants. So, creating that environment where students feel respected, trusted, affirmed, supported, kindness, all of those things help drive institutional success. So now it's time for you to start thinking. Learning requires a comprehensive approach and evaluation of data, building relationships, and cultivating a positive climate for all participants. So, think for a moment about your instructional philosophy and environment. Do you employ a balanced approach? If so, consider what outcomes you have observed. If not, which facet of this trilogy do you most favor? Because neither component in isolation will produce the desired result of student achievement that leads to persistence and retention. How we use data, build relationships, and establish culture really do matter. It's more than just numbers, it's a whole student. So at this time, if you have any questions, the floor is open to you.
Thank you for bringing up retention. I always talk about it all the time. I think it's one of the key factors in higher education. Also, I would like to mention there's some new differences. You have stop outs and dropouts in retention because a stop out is a student who may miss 3 terms, but they're coming back. But because of Title IV funding, which is Title IV funding is all financial aid funding, even if it's a parent loan, it's still financial aid. Um,
Mhm.
but so sometimes, like I was looking for our data one time. I was talking to Chantel in our presentation. I wanted to put our rates, but I did notice. I'm happy you shared that rate because I remember in my UX collaborative, we couldn't find the rate for retention for worldwide. And I do remember the number being, different from the other campuses. So yes, because we have a special population of students and their needs are different and we have to cater to their needs and like building a culture and building relationships. So I really, really, really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. And you're right, Marquita. It is important. We do have a different environment here in worldwide than the traditional campuses. And so, as I said in the presentation, we have to go a step further in building those relationships and making sure that people know that we see them, we hear them, we value them. If a student's missing, send an email, make a phone call. It is those personal touches that build relationships. And when we're making those connections and when we're using those touch points, we have to be aware and mindful that it doesn't become accusatory, like you haven't done this, this, and this. It is first and foremost, are you okay? Is there anything you need? How can I help you get back on track? And so taking that approach keeps an open line of communication, and it really communicates that you value and care about the person, and it's not just about the process. What practical approaches do you work with faculty to fulfill the three areas you discussed? So, with regards to data, we do, I encourage faculty members to reach out to the student first when they are missing assignments, when they have not been engaged in the discussions or other activities within the course. My first inclination is check on them and make sure they're okay, because that establishes the relationship. When people know you care, then they will work for you. And that is how you shift the data set. And so by having instructors really focus on creating that environment in their courses that says, you're not just a number here. You're not just a data point for me. When we look at the CIATs and the FIATs are at the end of the term surveys, and I am particularly looking for those relationship pieces. What is the culture of the core of the class when I'm doing my course checks and supporting faculty? So there are a lot of ways that we can really, Sophia, assist faculty. It depends on what their individual needs are and what's happening in their course as to really a specific way to give them guidance. Yes, Camille, absolutely. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is one of my own personal philosophies as well. So much. The pandemic taught us how much some people value these connections and meaningful relationships, thus the need for such in our online courses. Absolutely, Sophia. We need it for all modalities, but especially when we are in virtual environments, because a lot of the natural relationship building that we get from day to day human interactions being in the same place, you tend to lose in a virtual environment. And so finding ways to reconnect those things. You can use gamification in your courses. You could do fireside chats if you want. You can do over the holidays, I did a jingle and mingle to get people together that wouldn't normally be together. So you can be creative in how you bring people together to build and establish those relationships and that culture. Because again, when the culture is right and the relationship is right, the data will be right. And that's how we get people to stay with Embry-Riddle. That's how we get people to know, listen, you don't have to quit because times are tough. We're here with you. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you get that degree. We want to see you get that certification. And so building that structure in place, having it in place really will help the student as well as the school, the college, to be successful. Yes, you're right, Megan. They really do crave that connection and collaboration. Marquita, that is something that I do now in the College of Business. Is if I email you for any reason and I don't get a response after that second contact, I'm picking up the phone to call you. I need to make sure you're okay. This is not about checking a box. It is really, I want to make sure that you as a person are okay. And a lot of times, just that phone call helps me better understand what is happening with the instructor. And so I'm able to say, this is what we can do to help you. You don't have to go through this by yourself. Just having and knowing that someone is there and that they care makes a big difference. Thank you, Sophia. We might have to create that.
All right, well, our time it is 2:50. I could talk about this all day and night, but thank you. I would like everyone to, well, I want to say thank you, Dr. Macklin, for your presentation and sharing this insightful information. Thank you for everyone for participating and asking good questions and sharing good information. The next session does start at 3:15, but if you want to drop in a session before, you're more than welcome to. Again, we'll see everyone at the next session. Have a good one.
Thank you, Marquita.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.